Welcome to CineMunn Podcast. I'm your host, Vince. I've been doing this show. I got a Facebook notice yesterday saying, I want to share your memory posts, and on that post was the marking of the first podcast we ever did on December 2nd, 2014. So it's been 2 years of, unfortunately, on and off podcasting. Like, it hasn't been as consistent as I would like it to be, but that's my fault, so I will take that blame. But just knowing that we've been doing this for that long already, and the time just gone by fast. At the same time, it feels like it's so distant, that first episode, that I've completely forgotten about it and what day we recorded it. But that it's been 2 years of doing shows. I think it's probably about going to be our 38th show in 2 years, so not as consistent as I would like it, but, where there's a will, there's a way, and certainly there is a will, and I am trying to find a way. I love doing this. I love the fact that we do have something of an audience. I just saw my 16th subscriber on our page, which I know, 16, what the hell is that? That's not really a big number in the world of YouTube. But for someone doing something that you can find all over the internet and on the radio and on TV, to have at least that much of an audience listening to you, it means something, and it matters. So to those 16 subscribers out there, and people who comment on our videos, and listen to our videos, and watch our videos, even if you aren't a subscriber, thank you. Thank you so much for being there and listening to our shows, and listening to us ramble about random crap that, everyone has an opinion about. We just feel the need to share ours because, in some ways, it means a lot. In that, those of us who are on the show, and unfortunately I am alone on this show again. That's been a thing for now. We're in the holiday season, so getting us all together at once to do a show is getting harder to do. But, again, as people who grew up with all these movies and video games and cartoons and such, it means something to us. And to know that it matters enough to you that you will take the time out of your day to listen to us talk about it, that means even more. Because maybe you relate to it in some way. You have another perspective. Everyone has a different perspective, obviously. That's great, and I would love to hear it. So please feel free to leave it in the comments section of our videos. If you haven't subscribed or liked our videos, please feel free to do so right there on our YouTube page. We are also on Facebook at CineMunn, and on Instagram as well. I was debating about doing a show today simply because I didn't know what kind of material I could cover. But going back through this last week of news and media, there's quite a bit, and I'm sure you've read it and seen it online, on news outlets, and on social media. So really it's just kind of repeating what you already know, but from a different perspective. And maybe that's why you listen to the show. Ron Glass passed away this week at the ripe age of 71, and that was really rough. 2016 has been just a shitty year for death in celebrities. A lot of older celebrities. It's getting odd now to look at some people that your parents watched, when they were around your age or slightly younger than you, and you watch them now too. They're leaving. People like Patty Duke passed away earlier this year. Doris Roberts. Now we have Ron Glass. Obviously, at the beginning of the year, we had David Bowie, who was, found a way to make himself known every generation, every 10 years, so kind of reinvented himself in the ways of Madonna, but I think to better success. Alan Rickman passing away was a rough one, but Ron Glass was special because I was introduced to Ron Glass on Firefly, Joss Whedon's short-lived sci-fi western in 2002. I had heard of Barney Miller, but I wasn't quite sure who he was on that show until I saw Firefly. And so that's where he stuck out the most in that, as well as on Serenity. And I remember in the first season of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., he popped up. He was the doctor who had helped bring back Coulson, which if you watch Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., you're aware of that. If you don't, I'm sorry, and you had to figure, since he was the headline for the show, he was brought back somehow by someone, and it was Ron Glass. Losing him has put obviously a big shadow over the Firefly fans. Now seeing that our beloved crew of 9 of the Serenity is now lost a member. So that's been hard for us. But to Ron we say, you can't take the sky from me. about, what time is it? About an hour ago, a little over an hour ago, James Gunn and Marvel Studios decided to release, slightly early, their official teaser trailer for Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2. And holy crap, what a show. Guardians of the Galaxy was a surprise hit for Marvel Studios, not only to them, but to everyone who saw it. For me, it was a property I had heard of. I remember in 2008 when they kind of revamped them in the comic books, and it looked kind of cool, but I never really was wanting to pick it up. It's not even like a B level, it's like a C or D level, C or D grade property that almost you'd have to be like a hardcore fan to know who those characters are, or been reading for a long time, since they do go back to the 60s, like some of your main A-list characters. But Guardians of the Galaxy, again, was a surprise hit to everyone, and a smash at the box office. It was basically, you could almost call it this generation Star Wars, and that seems kind of funny because now this generation has a Star Wars film, but you couldn't really call it this generation Star Wars because it came out before Episode 7, and it set that bar of like a fun sci-fi action film with heart and humor. And that movie, the ending of that film, when Star-Lord reads the letter from his mom, still makes me cry, because it's something my mom would write. So that gets me every time. This new trailer is everything that you would expect from a sequel to that. It looks bigger, it looks louder, the costumes look great, the sets look amazing, the environments look cool, the makeup is still top-notch. We finally get a good shot of Mantis, and a nice little scene between her and Star-Lord, Gamora, and Drax. And obviously the chemistry between these characters is still there. Chris Pratt, Zoe Saldana, Dave Bautista, Bradley Cooper, their chemistry together in these films is phenomenal, and I can't wait to see this film. It looks so cool. The colors are bright and big. I know some of the guys who work on these films in the concept department, and the stuff they released at Comic-Con for art pieces showing off, not necessarily showing off, but kind of, wetting the beak a little bit, that whole little first taste. The first taste is free, and that's what we saw at Comic-Con was a big old kind of splash page looking concept art production piece, and you can see bits and pieces of it in this trailer, and it just looks so cool. And obviously the soundtrack is great. I think Marvel has learned with James Gunn to trust him. Not saying that they didn't trust him on the first film, but I mean, it was a real risk. You look at directors who come into there who do have kind of a signature voice from their own art beforehand, they kind of stick out. Like Shane Black's Iron Man sticks out. What's another good one? The Russos, they stick out in how they do. The almost Ant-Man film directed by Edgar Wright that should have happened, could have happened, you even heard would have been a stick-out film, as far as like it will fit into the pantheon, but you'll notice it. And Guardians of the Galaxy with James Gunn at the helm certainly sticks out, and in the best way, in a way of like, hey, remember those comic movies? Yeah, remember the one that was in space with the Star-Lord guy? And you can just light up, and I was just beaming ear to ear with a smile watching this trailer. It just looks so cool, and they do have a Baby Groot, and the little scenes between Baby Groot and Rocket Raccoon, it's hilarious. It's hilariously cute and hilariously funny and endearing, and you want to know the context of what's going on. So that's really the big selling point. The soundtrack, obviously, again, trusting James Gunn with his soundtrack. When he wrote the script for the first film, he had those songs set into it. Set into his script as far as what the song was, who the artist was, and where it would go in the film. And I believe he said he's done that with this one as well. So I think that will stay true in this film. Just go listen, go watch it. If you haven't watched it already, go watch it. It was supposed to, I think, debut during one of the college games tonight on ESPN, but they decided to drop it early. There is a Comic-Con going on right now in Brazil, so I think that's why they released it just a little bit early, just to give you a little taste, a little, here's what's coming next summer, and it looks so cool. I sent it to my dad. My dad's a big Guardians of the Galaxy fan ever since that film, and so I linked it to him, and I'm still waiting to hear back from him, but that'll be fun. So when we do hear back, we'll let you know. I'm hoping to get a show eventually with Metropolis and Wiki, so we can all kind of sit around and talk about these trailers. Another thing that Marvel released this week was a piece of promotional art for Thor Ragnarok. Now, Thor Ragnarok will be the third film in the Thor series. Excuse me. Featuring Chris Hemsworth and Mark Ruffalo. I think it was described a little bit as a kind of like a buddy cop film, kind of like Lethal Weapon, of Thor and Hulk kind of running around the Nine Realms. And in the promotional art, you can see that they are going with Gladiator Hulk, which if you read Planet Hulk, if you've seen Planet Hulk, if you read World War Hulk, you know that Hulk it's decided by the Illuminati and the Avengers that Hulk is too dangerous, and so they shoot him off-world, and he becomes kind of like a king of a planet and a ruler and a gladiator to do so. Kind of, if you saw Gladiator, it's a little similar in that sense. So they are heavily referencing that in the promo art of Ragnarok. It's Thor with that big old helmet with looks like the captain's crest on top and a war hammer. And they took Thor and redid his armor and his helmet. He's got two swords now instead of Mjolnir, his magical hammer, at least in this promo piece. Whether that'll stay true through the whole film, I don't know, but we'll find out. It looks very kind of 80s, kind of Buck Rogers, Flash Gordon-y, and a little bit of, I almost want to say Last Starfighter, but I mean, it's too early to really pin down what this is referencing. Maybe even John Carter. And if you saw John Carter from 2012, you know what a great film that was. It was a film that should not have bombed. It did not deserve the beating that it took, and I still stand that it's a great film. So yeah, that dropped again. So trailer for Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2 came out today, and promotional work pieces this week came out for Thor Ragnarok, as well as at the Comic-Con down there in Brazil. They talked Spider-Man Homecoming. Spider-Man Homecoming will be coming out next summer, starring Tom Holland, Robert Downey Jr., Marissa Tomei, and Michael Keaton. Michael Keaton was confirmed to be playing the Vulture. Now, whether it will be Adrian Toomes, the Vulture, the classic Vulture from the 60s, from the Ditko Stan Lee run, I am not sure. I'm hoping so. They did, again at Comic-Con, release, not to the public, but they at least released for viewing, a promotional piece done by artist Ryan Meinerding, who is the head of visual department at Marvel Studios, that he did for Spider-Man Homecoming, and it looks beautiful. It's him and the Vulture in midair in battle, and it's so cool looking, and I cannot wait to see what that looks like. I'm kind of waiting for the definitive Spider-Man film, and I think that's kind of happening now with comic book films, in that we've seen, Tim Burton's Batman, we've seen Schumacher's Batman, we've seen Chris Nolan's Dark Knight trilogy, we've seen, the Dolph Lundgren Punisher, we saw the 2004 Punisher, and now I think on Netflix we are getting the definitive Punisher. I think now with Tom Holland, with Marvel Studios, we'll be getting the definitive Spider-Man. I think with Ben Affleck, we'll be getting the definitive Batman. And I hope that's true. And so I'm kind of hang my star on that hope and see what happens. But I hope it's true. Let's see what else has happened this week. Buckaroo Banzai was set to be, I believe, not necessarily redone so much as sequelized as a TV series on Amazon Prime. Kevin Smith had been touting about Buckaroo Banzai for a long time and had wrote a spec script pilot for it and had shopped it around to, networks and such, and Amazon Prime had picked it up and they were going to run with it. Unfortunately, the studio that owns the property has gotten into a lawsuit with the writers and directors of the original film from the 80s. Starred Peter Weller, John Lithgow, and Jeff Goldblum. So that has unfortunately put that show on the back burner. Or not necessarily, not on the back burner, but on hiatus until it all gets sorted out. So Kevin Smith has dropped out of that until that all gets settled. So he'll be doing his own thing. And hopefully we get that. Buckaroo Banzai is one that my dad has told me about and that I've heard of from friends. I probably have seen it, but I don't recall it well enough to say I know Buckaroo Banzai. So if you do know it, feel free to throw it in the comments section. Kind of give me a rehash, a memory wipe, or a memory toss of what Buckaroo Banzai is again. And it's Peter Weller in the 80s, so naturally it's one I love. One that I can love, much like I did him in RoboCop. And oh my god, I love RoboCop. It is the holiday season. It's the holiday season. Okay, we're not going to sing here. So that means a lot of Christmas movies, a lot of stuff you'll see on network television, at your, local shopping, Walmart, Targets, wherever you go to shop, Costco's, they have, their holiday bins of films. And everyone has films they watch every year with their family or by themselves. And I'm just going to give you a couple of mine. The first one I do, which is actually the one we were watching, during most of these shows, at least in our past shows, whenever we record, we watch a movie. So tonight's movie is The Muppet Christmas Carol, released in 1984, directed by Brian Henson, starring Jim Henson's The Muppets and Michael Caine. I remember seeing this in the theater when I was about 6, maybe 7 years old. I remember the Taco Bell on Washington Street had a poster. I don't know how they got a marketing thing with Disney and the Muppets, but there was a poster in the dining room area of Taco Bell that was a Drew Struzan piece that was the main poster for this film, and it was beautiful, and I've always remembered that image. And I remember seeing this movie, and I was always a little scared about the whole Jacob and Robert Marley sequence because it looked so creepy, and I was one of those kids that you get scared easily. Sometimes I still am. So yeah, that's one that I watch every year. It means so much to me. It makes me laugh. It makes me cry. I love the Muppets. I love all the songs in this film. And this was the first Muppet film, done after Jim Henson had passed away. So it is directly dedicated to him. You'll notice that you never hear Rolf speak. You haven't heard Rolf speak from here until I think maybe the show that was on ABC last season. That unfortunately was canceled. He never spoke. That was to honor Jim as one of his favorite puppets to perform. So the Muppet Christmas Carol is one that I like to watch every year. I know a lot of people say Die Hard is a Christmas film, and sure, because it does take place at Christmas. But by that right, I can say Iron Man 3 is a Christmas film, or that Kiss Kiss Bang Bang is a Christmas film, or even The Nice Guys is a Christmas film. A lot of Shane Black movies are set around Christmas. If you notice that in his writing, that's kind of like a signature piece of his, is that his films are set around Christmas time. Chronicles of Narnia, Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe. I remember in 2005 it came out right around Christmas. That's another one that means a little bit to me because it was a show I performed in high school where I played Mr. Tumnus. So that's a film that I like to watch every year as well. This is probably the one I'm going to focus on the most, and probably will end our show with, is a film that I watch every year with my family, is called Mixed Nuts. Mixed Nuts also came out in 1994, starring Steve Martin, Rita Wilson, Adam Sandler, Juliette Lewis, Liev Schreiber in his theatrical debut, Gary Shandling, Jon Stewart, and the legendary Madeline Kahn. It's a film about a suicide hotline in Santa Monica on Christmas Eve, and all the mishaps that kind of happen to these people working there, between friends, between relationships that are going south, flirtations between coworkers, and a serial killer on the loose called the Seaside Strangler. And yes, this is a comedy. It is a remake, a Americanized remake of a French film called Le Jour Noël, I believe. I believe that's what it's called. It's the same basic concept. There are some, I guess you could call them major changes, especially in the ending. But this one is a film, it's a diamond in the rough in that it's a funny movie with actors that now you recognize. You know their talent and you kind of know their resume. And it's kind of like their stepping stone, their first big taste of the big time. And it's one that I watch every year. It's so funny, it's endearing, it's got great humor, there's great jokes, there's a cameo by Victor Garber, which if you are a Victor Garber fan, which I am, you come to appreciate. And I can tell you where it is, you just have to find it in the film and let me know. So that's one, you can almost never find it, especially in Christmas sections, which I think is really weird. Maybe it's because the base context of the film is, a little dark. Again, suicide hotline, serial killer on the loose, da-da-da. So that's probably why it's not a big thing. It's Steve Martin in a hilarious and endearing performance. No gray hair, he's got, light sandy brown blonde hair. Adam Sandler, and was probably one of his first movies. This very young Adam Sandler, I think maybe post Saturday Night Live, but before Billy Madison. So it's right there between where he was getting recognized and before he became a big star with Billy Madison and Happy Gilmore, and kind of hitting those, right out of the park 1-2. This is right in between there, and if you know his resume, you may know it. Or it might be one you've actually skipped over because it's such a great ensemble piece that you think he might get lost in it. He doesn't get lost in it. He's so funny. He does, again, like he does in a lot of his work, an original song. And it's so funny. And he plays ukulele. You have Liev Schreiber, again, if you watch Ray Donovan on Showtime, if you've seen the X-Men Origins Wolverine film, Defiance, his unfortunately finished marriage with Naomi Watts, Liev Schreiber is one of those great actors of this time, those great character actors. He stands out. You recognize his face, though you may not remember his name, or even know how to pronounce his name. He's one that you'll know. And he's in there playing a cross-dressing gentleman by the name of Arnold. And it's so funny, and it's so good. And it's, again, just one, if you find it, watch it. If you know it and you've seen it, you know what I'm talking about. If you've never seen it, find someone, not me, find someone who has it, or you can probably find it on YouTube. Again, the power of YouTube, the power of the internet is you can find anything out there. You can probably find it for $1 on Amazon and buy it, and it's worth that dollar price. So my parents have a copy and I have a copy. So whenever, every Christmas, whoever we're spending Christmas with, we have a copy to watch. And it's so good. So that's been our show for today. I know it's a quick one. We are coming in a little over 20 minutes, simply because I don't have my full crew here. There's some other new stuff I'd love to talk about. I would love to still sit down with them and do reviews for Doctor Strange, worth seeing, especially in 3D, and this is coming from someone who does not believe in a 3D film for just any film. So that is worth seeing in 3D. Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them, another nice, quiet little film. It's the Potter film without the Harry, and it works just fine for me. And I got to meet Dan Fogler, who plays one of the lead characters. I got to meet him at Comic-Con this last summer, and he's a very nice man. And really, Fantastic Beasts, with the way it's I'm going to talk about it really quick. With the way it's promoted, it's about, a gentleman coming to New York with all these fantastical creatures and losing them. I see Fantastic Beasts as a story of a man who goes to the bank to try to get a loan for his small business and ends up paying for it the rest of the movie. I mean, that's really what it's about. And you'll see what I mean when you go see the film. And the last one I will say I saw, the last movie I've seen that was worth it, was Disney's Moana. I'm not even going to talk to you about it. You have an idea of what the film is just from the trailers and the promotional work. Go see it. It's beautiful. If you have a daughter, if you have a female-dominant family, it is one for them. And it really is geared towards young girls, young women growing up. And it's perfectly done. It's beautifully done. The songs are so good. Lin-Manuel Miranda, his music in there is so beautiful. And if you can find the characters of directors John Musker and Ron Clements, please let me know who they are. Because I found them, but I want to see if you can point them out to me as well. And it'll be another hit for Disney. And I hope they just keep knocking it out of the park in their animation department, because they are. I mean, they've really kind of given themselves a run for their own money with Pixar, being as they own Pixar as well. And Pixar, has yet to really have a bad apple. I mean, Cars 2, a lot of people would say that's their coal in the pile of diamonds. But, overall, Pixar has an almost flawless record. And so Disney is now, again, catching up to them in that with their animation. Their in-house animation. So, again, 3 films we're seeing: Doctor Strange in 3D, Fantastic Beasts, and Moana. So, if you're looking for something to do with your family, if you want to go to theaters, go see that. Obviously, in 13 days, folks, 13 days, just under 2 weeks, you can feel it. We are going to get Star Wars Rogue One, a Star Wars story. And it's one that I am so looking forward to the most, in that I can't wait to see it. I know there was a little bit of controversy with it not having one of the opening crawls that you see in the traditional Star Wars film, because I think they've straight up said that this is not part of the legacy, as in, this is not part of the main storyline. The main storyline of Star Wars, with Episode 1 through now 7, they have those because they are chapters of a story. This is not a chapter. This is if you're reading a comic book series and then there's a one-off, a one-shot comic. That's more of what this film is. So it doesn't need the opening crawl, and I'm fine with that. I don't see it as a mistake. I know a lot of people do. They see it as a big mistake and a big year. Maybe it's Disney, trying to control Star Wars. No, I see it as a smart thing to set it apart from what you know, because this film looks apart from what we know of Star Wars, and I can't wait to see it. I hope we do a nice big review show for you, so I look forward to that. Once again, thank you for listening to our podcast. This has been another CineMunn Podcast with your host, Vince. Please feel free to like and subscribe to our page if you did like this video. If you don't like what they say, please let me know. Put it in the comments. If you think I'm full of crap, let me know. I want to hear it. I'm so excited to hear from people. Thank you again to our 16 subscribers. To those of you who listen freely, who don't subscribe, thank you as well. Thank you for taking the time to listen to our show. It really means a lot to us, especially during the holiday season when we first started this little journey. So I look forward to hearing from you. Also, again, find us on Facebook, CineMunn. We are a broadcast or radio station on there. Find us right here on YouTube at CineMunn on Twitter, and CineMunn on Instagram as well. So if you have any suggestions of films that we should watch that you'd love to hear commentaries for, because we do like to do commentary shows, feel free to let us know, again, in the comments, and we will see you next time. See you at the concession stands.